I am here to say that, as he indicated, the community is having its own celebration, and some of the music may actually be coming true. So he is not
Wonderful.
available to come as he promised, but
Okay.
he has asked me to say what he would have said. So
Wonderful.
I
Thank you
can make
very much.
a brief address on his behalf. He
Thank
is
you. Can you just move back a little
request
bit
very much.
so we can see you on the camera? Just move back a little bit so we can see you on the camera. Thank you very much. Perfect. Just a little bit.
I think it's the computer.
Wonderful. There you are. And welcome. Greet us. Thank you.
So I shall introduce myself since you did not have a portfolio. The last speaker spoke of his Garifuna identity. I come from the original Garifunas that were exiled from Urume or St. Vincent the Grenadines, as it is known. So I am Black Carib Garifuna, and I'm here in Trinidad and Tobago at the Santa Rosa First Peoples community, linking with them in building the community and in advancing the cause of the indigenous peoples. I saw two names that I am very familiar with, Joel and Lennox Sony Church, also Ralcia. I am very familiar with those persons. So I was the coordinator of the very first conference on the indigenous peoples of the English-speaking Caribbean. And it was out of that in 1987 that the Caribbean Organization of Indigenous Peoples was formed. I see myself as an adult educator by profession with some administrative skills. So I am going to read a message from the chief at this moment. It is in honor of the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, and the theme is preservation and transmission of traditional knowledge, a slight variation from the United Nations theme. On 23rd December 1994, the United Nations General Assembly decided that the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples should be observed on 9th August every year. The date marks the first meeting in 1982 of the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Populations. In defining indigenous populations, the United Nations Indigenous Peoples Forum has this to say. Indigenous communities, peoples and nations are those that, having a historical continuity with pre-invasion and pre-colonial societies that developed on their territories, consider themselves distinct from other sectors of the societies now prevailing in those territories or parts of them. They form at present non-dominant sectors of the society and are determined to preserve, develop, and transmit to future generations their ancestral territories and their ethnic identity as the basis of their continued existence as peoples in accordance with their own cultural patterns, social institutions, and legal systems. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was approved on September 13, 2007, as I think all of us would know. Many states have signed on to this declaration, of which Trinidad and Tobago, where I sit now, is a signatory. Successive governments, in dealing with the issues of First Peoples, have used this document as a guide for their decisions in an attempt to improve the status of our First Peoples. Having said that, much more needs to be done to embrace the declaration in its entirety which will lead to the level of recognition we require. The United Nations theme for this year's observance is the role of Indigenous women in the preservation and transmission of traditional knowledge. But we must say here in Santa Rosa, historically, our Carib queens are selected based on their knowledge of the history and culture so that they can play an active part in the transmission of traditional knowledge to the youth and community as a whole. So locally, we have made our team gender neutral, since all the capacities will work in tandem in the heritage village, a symbol of preservation and transmission of traditional knowledge. Now, if you see the background that I am sitting in front of is the sketches for the traditional village, because here in Trinidad and Tobago, you do not have a community such as Dominica, for example, has quite extensively, and St. Vincent to a lesser extent. So the village is meant to be that place of bringing together where the values and the traditions can be shared. It is therefore incumbent on First Peoples throughout this country and other countries to identify with their heritage and build that critical mass to move us forward. The gathering and homecoming of the descendants of the First Peoples and First Peoples descendants from other countries living here will strengthen the call for equality as enjoyed by other ethnicities. And I heard my cousin Garifuna speaking of the way the Garifuna are in the different countries. There is need for that coming together and that one unity so that we can be that force to work against the discriminatory actions against us. Major recognition is yet to come and should not be delayed for too long into the future. So this platform of the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, and even this platform that we are taking part in here today, was created to give the Indigenous peoples worldwide, in the Caribbean, in our local countries, a voice, and to advocate for meaningful recognition and development. So in closing, let us move forward with the strength of our ancestors, our great warriors, and others to ensure our equal place in the different countries where we are now placed. I thank you.